Hello and good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishad Gadani coming to you from Melbourne, and this is 215th show of Career Care Package. Career Care Package is a weekly LinkedIn live show. Me and Caroline appear with amazing guests on every Friday at 12 p.m. to bring optimism to your careers and possibly to your life. And we've been doing it for since the time COVID started, and we are in the vaccination phase. So we have seen the whole circle, or a half circle, not the whole circle, half circle since the time, and we've seen the impact of COVID at the very beginning of it, and we are still kind of considered to be in the midst of COVID. We are not yet out of it. Probably next few months we will see the tail end of COVID when we will have huge amount of adult population getting vaccinated, and then we might have a different employment market, labor market altogether. But we don't know that yet. But in order to help us understand the changes, what's happening with it, we have invited Sharon Davy to talk to us about. She has written a fantastic book called Land That Job, about how to move forward after COVID-19. So we'll be chatting with her about the book, her observations, and what are some of the best practices that she outlines for you as a professional. If you got questions for Sharon or for us, please drop in into the chat box and we will take those questions with Sharon. And before we start to chat with Sharon, let's welcome Caroline Brown.
Thanks, Naish. And yeah, it's fantastic to be here. It's interesting the waves of this whole thing, isn't it? Because, a few months ago, there's a bounce back and there's lots of jobs and lots of people being contacted by recruiters, and there's a sense of optimism in the air. And now with, in the midst of winter and both cities are locked down and, there's more stimulus and people are asking what's next. And I feel like I was reading an article around how people behave post-pandemics, and they go out and they do crazy things. So it's a weird kind of time because I think how we've been operating on adrenaline and then hope, and then that's dashed and then hope again, and everyone's up and down like that. So it'll be really interesting to see how we end up after this process, 3 years out, basically. So, but yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, Sharon. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Excellent. Well, we've got some great questions for you. And I guess the best place to start is perhaps if you give people an understanding of the work that you do. I did see on your LinkedIn profile that you're a hypnotherapist as well. So that's kind of intriguing. But tell us about the work that you do in careers.
Well, I started off as a careers counsellor in a school, and then worked for the education department and had a statewide responsibility actually for careers counsellors, and was also president of the CEAV, the Career Education Association of Victoria, for a couple of years, and various things like that. And over the years, I've actually done a range of different jobs. In schools, in TAFEs, in unis, and whatever to do with careers. And I've done other things as well. I was 2IC at a disability organisation up in the country. I've done a lot of different sorts of things, but careers always draws me back in. And partly that's because I always get clients. I've never advertised for clients. People just know of me, and so they go, "Oh, my brother," or my sister's son, well, whatever, that sort of thing. So I end up talking. I've talked to people really of all ages. I think the oldest is probably someone who is about 78, and the youngest was somebody who was about 12. So there's sort of been a really broad range of people that I do. And I'm not somebody who says you should be this. I'm not that sort of careers person. I really ask a lot of questions. I think that's the way to go, because I think in the answering of the question, somebody's going to actually see themselves in a different sort of way, because they're responding to, and they'll actually do their thinking through their talking. And that's what I like to, explore that with people, because I think that often people have answers inside of them that they didn't know that they had. And while sometimes I'll go, have you thought about this or that or whatever, just to prompt things. It's not you should do that. It's really more like, and sometimes, people, remember one time working with somebody and I said, have you ever thought about being a funeral director? And she nearly fell off her chair. And she looked at me suspiciously and said, how do you know? So I figured I'd got,
Was she wearing black? Was it?
No, but I did say to her, I said to her, well, she was a nurse, so she'd seen dead people before. That wasn't going to be a problem. But, and apologies to nurses out there. I don't mean that you dead people all the time. But I think that, people do often, in the experiences that they've had and the life that they've led, it will be leading towards something anyway. And so it's about asking the right questions and asking interesting questions of them. Really important.
Yeah. It's funny with that stuff, it's I think going and getting help, whether it's careers or psychological help or whatever, takes a lot of courage. So I would assume that you would be the most popular person at the party next to, because everybody's got a job issue or a career issue. So it's fantastic that people get referred to you all the time. So tell us about the book. What prompted you to write the book?
Well, look, I was putting a book together on job search anyway. I'd been thinking about it and thinking, really, I need to, I've got all of this experience and whatever, and I'd been starting it anyway. And then, of course, COVID came along and gave me time to even write it even more. And then I could see that the world was, certainly going to change as a result of COVID, and there's always winners and losers, of course, in any sort of world event and whatever. But it was the thing I thought to myself, people are going to need to know what to do, how to apply for jobs and things like that. And some people probably haven't had to apply for very many jobs. And I just wanted something that was going to be really practical and down to earth so that it matched me, but so that it was positive as well, which is what, I'm really sort of delighted to be on a program which fosters optimism, because that's the sort of place that I like to be in myself. I think that it's really important to, to look at things from that positive point of view. So I wanted to put something out there that was, people could go, oh, I didn't know that, or that's a good idea, or that sort of thing, without actually feeling overwhelmed by everything. And I wanted to, and so some of the things in there, some people will go, well, I knew that, that's all right. But other things that they'll go, oh, right, okay, so that's something a bit different. I haven't thought about that, or whatever. And so it's fairly comprehensive, really, because I thought I'd look at every angle that I could think of, with that. So I'd written a book previously. I should show you here. It was Awesome Careers for Gen Ys, and I wrote that in 2015. And so I knew I could write a book. That was another thing. But I really like writing. I suppose that that was another thing. I find it. I like playing with words, and and so that was something behind it as well, I guess. I just wanted to make sure that I could help more people than just the people who come and see me. I wanted to have a broader audience. Yeah.
I remember first time when I spoke to Sharon, and it says that hypnotherapy, and the movie that came to my in my head, I think a lot of us have seen that movie, Now You See Me, where they do a bank heist and they get hypnotized. And I said, oh, Sharon, can you do that? Yeah, but obviously the answer was no. But look, Sharon, can we start with your observations? Because you've been around careers, to people's careers for a long time to really see some trends emerging. Before COVID, before March 2020, and through that, what are some of the key observations that you have felt about the labor market shifts, or about how job seekers are approaching this?
Well, you're actually getting on to the essence of my next book, Nash, but because I've nearly finished that one. But I really think it's time that people stopped looking at careers from a sort of matching, looking at the job title and working whether or not they match that job title. I think there has to be much more focus on what our skill base is, what our values are, what our attributes are, all those sorts of things. Because really, if you've had a batch of whatever your particular attributes were, I could probably suggest 30 jobs for you. You know what I mean? Because it'd be, without knowing what your qualifications were, I could probably still say, well, what about this or this or this or this? We need to be looking more broadly. I think when we look at job titles, we lock ourselves into things. The other thing, of course, is that because of technology in particular, all jobs have changed. I don't think that there's any job really that hasn't been impacted by that. I mean, when you think about years ago, a librarian would get a Bachelor of Librarianship or something of that sort of title, and these days they get a Bachelor of Information Technology. It's a different, their jobs change so significantly because of. But if you think about any job, doctor, teacher, whatever, really, and even people who work in, my brother-in-law and sister were farmers, and that required them to know about just basic things in terms of communication, but also in terms of the sort of equipment that they had on the farm meant that they had to become proficient in technology. So that's changed things, obviously, and that will continue to be the case. I mean, it's not like we're going to get to a point where we go, well, we've learned everything we can learn here. That's just simply not going to be the case at all. I don't think it means, though, that that people aren't going to be important. I think it probably means that we'll have more niche sorts of things, that people will bring their own special collection of things, to jobs. The other thing is that I think it's quite likely, although it's certainly been tested through COVID, that more people will start up their own businesses. And I think that's something that, because especially people who have had, quite a bit of experience in the workplace, they will bring, they will bring a whole, a particular group of skills and knowledge and everything else to a small business, for example. So I think that's a thing. I mean, I think that people have had, during COVID, there wasn't a lot that people in the tourism industry could do. And that's been a dreadful sort of thing for them. Sometimes, though, people have looked at, well, okay, I'm in the hospitality industry. I can't serve, food. But I mean, for example, Attica in Ripponlea sort of area, they're a fairly high-end restaurant, and they actually came out with sort of packages of things where you could go and pick it up. And they were observing all of their things, but they were still able to provide the sort of work for their people. It's just that the customer service people weren't involved in it. But I'm just thinking people have had to look at things differently, and if they didn't look at things differently, often that meant that their business did die. That's been a difficulty. And I'm not pointing. I don't want to sound as if I'm pointing the finger, because some people just simply didn't have the wherewithal in terms of finances and stuff. But I think that COVID forced people to be a bit more flexible and think outside the box and all those sorts of things in a way that they probably hadn't needed to before, and that's certainly been the case. But there were, of course, a lot of businesses that sort of really have grown in during the COVID time too. So people should be probably doing, having a chat to Mr. Google about that and seeing, what businesses have. I mean, I've made a list here. I ran out of room on the page of different businesses that have actually really grown enormously during COVID. And one of the ones that I found amusing was actually the fact that, paint stores and other things have really grown because people were home and thought, well, gee, this room looks a bit shabby. I think I might paint it,
Yeah.
But there was a lot of home improvement sorts of things that really did mean that people were looking at their homes in a different sort of way, and that's which of course has led to the whole thing about people having tree changes now because they can, that sort of thing. But so I could probably talk all day about all of that because it's really there've been a lot of changes and that will continue. I think the thing about it though that I like is that in a sense what it does is gives us new opportunities. If we instead of thinking this is all doom and gloom that we are in the midst of all of this, is looking at, well, what could I do? What do I really, really want to do? That sort of thing, and taking it from there. That's the sort of approach that I'd like to see people taking.
It's a fascinating time, isn't it? Because I guess last year we kind of thought, well, everyone spoke about the new normal without actually knowing what that would be. And then entering into this year, there's more people from home. So hence you go, well, if I'm going to work from this corner office, I want it to look like an office, or I'm at home, I want it to look like presentable and things like that. And then, you're talking about Attica. I was thinking as I was walking to the beach today that, we've got these different emotional needs now to connect with people. And, if I was a restaurant and my business had plummeted, then what about setting up a home cooking school and bringing people together, my favourite. So there's huge ways to look at it. But I think the thing too is that it kind of people need the dust to settle a bit too around what it actually really, like you say, what it really does mean for people and what it looks like. And just going back to what you were saying at the start of, when you were talking about, people seeing themselves in job titles, like, I'm a CFO, but then suddenly somebody said, I'm not going to get a job like that, so I'm going to be a financial controller, right? And they see themselves in blocks versus there's an overlay of skills in that whole realm of their experience and, integrating that with, well, what is it that you really want to do? And I think that's a much more fluid way of thinking about yourself, which is, what you're talking about as well.
Yes. And that's an exciting thing. That's part of that idea of it being an opportunity for us. I think that if we are going to use the time we have for reflection, which we've probably got a little bit more of now, we can.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, we can sort of then look at all of those elements of that, whereas before we didn't really. I mean, people were running around like headless chooks and really not, so I think you're right. I think those overlaps of different aspects of things will create a truly new normal. But as you said at the beginning, I think it will not be this year, and it mightn't even be next year. You know what I mean? I think that it will change, though, the way we live our lives.
Excellent. If you got questions for Sharon, please drop that in the chat. And if you got any anecdotes about your own career, or you've seen shift in your own career or your family, friends, acquaintances career, please drop that in as well. So let's talk about some of the best practices about looking for job in these times. Obviously, some industries have grown, some industries have taken a real hit. Hospitality, retail are particularly hard hit by that. Can you sort of tell us about what are still some of the best practices of looking for work in these COVID times? What would you recommend that these are the things that the job seeker must do regardless of anything else?
Well, look, given that most people, like 80% of people thereabouts, get their jobs through contacts of some sort or another, very clearly they should be on LinkedIn. that's a given. That's great. You'd be crazy not to if you're in that sort of market. And I think the whole networking thing. I think, in fact, this time gives us the opportunity to just get in touch with different people that we know and just chat to them. We're maintaining our connections with people. I think it's really a very critical time, and people won't think that you're crazy or odd for giving them a call or getting in touch with them at this stage. We're all wanting to be in contact with people, and so if you, as a job seeker, if you set yourself a little KPI of saying, well, this week I'm going to talk to so many people, it doesn't have to be that you're asking them for a job. It'll just be simply talking to them to remind them that you exist and that and you can talk about the sort of skills that you'd like to use in a job or something like that. Because this is the thing, people do get their jobs that way. I mean, it's that the sort of the numbers of people who get their jobs through the online sort of platforms, a pretty small percentage, and a lot of people spend all of their time doing that. And I say, no, you really should be looking at how you do, your contacts. So I've joined groups, I've done courses, I've actually sort of found myself a whole new tribe in terms of one of the courses that I did, with just like with all of these people that I really liked. And so we sort of formed a group outside. So it's about, I think, adding to our contacts. I do spend a bit of time in my book, which I probably should also hold up to what it looks like. But I do talk about that thing about contacts. They're really, really, really important. There's lots of ways in which you can, that you can actually build up your profile, I suppose, out there in a community. Part of it is too, of course, you need to know just what skills you have and all those sorts of things. So I've dealt with that also in the book. But I think, you could be doing that. You could also be doing some things that are a bit entrepreneurial. I like gardening, and I've got a veggie patch and all that sort of thing. And there's a fellow on Facebook who's got this thing where he talks about this, and he's been writing books, and he's been in the business for a long, long time. Craig Pastry, if you're a gardener, and he so it's really he's really added, I think, to his to the number of book sales that he's had and all those sorts of things as a result of being active on Facebook. So he's building up his people. One of my daughters has decided that she wanted to make masks that were going to be using fabric from all over the world, so France and various places and whatever else. And so she sort of started doing this, and then she approached a local food shop that's a bit sort of glamorous, and so they've been stocking her masks, and so she's been making a little bit on the side there. She also, of course, finished off her diploma of accounting during COVID, so that was also another good thing. And in the process of all of the people that she's met in this time has meant that she's now picked up a part-time job doing the bookkeeping that she's now, qualified to do. So do you know what I mean, Pete? I think that's the thing about taking the opportunity, but actually making sure that you say hello to people, that you do, and you don't know. You never know who's got the contacts. You just don't know. The other thing you could be doing, of course, is being a bit philanthropic and perhaps doing some work around your local neighbourhood, where you might walk somebody's dog, or you might, or doing things for other people. Somebody else that I know took on a job as chair of a charity, a board on a charity for a charity. So, there's a lot of different things we can be doing to add to our skill set and also adding to our connections as well. So that's the sort of, that's a really key thing, I think. And the other thing I think is, when you're doing these things, work out what skills you're using when you're doing them. Make sure that you put them on your resume as well. If you've spent, your time making your environment look better, that's something you can talk about when you're, when you're actually in a job interview, or even just to have on your resume, is, like renovating, or, I'm good at organising. I could totally reorganise my shed, that sort of thing. It means that you're somebody who wasn't sort of sitting on the couch, drinking wine and watching Netflix. Although that's not a bad thing to do, but you don't want to be doing it all the time. So it's. I think if you can be showing that you did things, that you were, got yourself involved in some way, or that you did lots of courses and you became qualified in something, or that you just did things for interest's sake, what you're doing is adding to your contacts, your interests. You're getting to know yourself a little bit more, all those sorts of things that are really, I think, very useful, when it comes, so.
Fantastic. We've got a few comments and things. That'd be a good point to just acknowledge them and maybe get you to comment on them, Sharon. So I'll just scroll back up here. So Desmore says, great advice, thumbs up. I'm not sure if you can see them. Sundar's sending out thoughts and prayers to everyone going through another round of lockdown. New normal is testing our patience and resolve. Yep, definitely. And Desmore just picked up on something before that I think you've been really emphasising what you're talking about, learning that being flexible and adaptable is key. And I think in these times, if you just, think of yourself as one thing, and that your next job or whatever has to be that one thing, and you're going to get it in that one way, that's a long path to, wasting time and not getting it, basically. So, yes. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that kind of flexibility and adaptability? I think you've referenced it quite a lot in what you're saying. Yes,
look, I agree. I think it's very important that we think about how else can I do this. If you're, one of the things that is really central to what I say in the book is that if you're writing if you're sending off the same application basically every time, and you're not getting work, or not getting an interview, I should say, you really need to be looking at, well, what am I writing here? What am I saying in my email? What am I saying in my letters? Changing that. So you need to think about how do I need to change this thing? How do I need to present myself differently? So that then and the other second part of that is, if you're getting lots of interviews, but you're actually not getting the job, there's something obviously that you're needing to change within that. So it's about being willing to change, willing to see what else it is that you can be doing. It's I think it's really important that we as careers people, if people aren't willing to do that, is us challenging them to this is a different way, working at, well, what else could you be doing? How else could you be looking? What would you say to somebody if they were in the same position as you? There's lots of questions you can ask, but I think that flexibility, it's probably always been an element that's valued by employers. But I think this time has called on us to do that even further. Yeah.
I was just reflecting, talking about, getting out and about and volunteering. It's the dog walker's theory on getting a job. It's like if you have a dog, everybody approaches you and has a chat. So get a dog.
That's right.
Okay, so Emma, do you want to read this out, Nish?
Yeah, sure. So I think Sundar's saying that networking is a skill that can be learned and developed. Absolutely, Sundar. And we all need to get used to the new ways of networking. Also, if I can go back to what Sharon said, one of the way on LinkedIn that to network, not many people use that. Not particularly sure, but LinkedIn events are another great way for people to network. Earlier we would go on a meetup event and meet people, right? Now we got LinkedIn events that organizes events relevant to your own, chosen interest, and you can go there, and they are mostly virtual events. So I think that, and then you are stuffed into a breakout room on Zoom or any other platform, right? And you're interacting with them. I think that's another fantastic way for you to expand your network with people who are considered to be within the industry sector that you kind of want to work on. Emma says that I'm trying to create my own job and jobs for other career development practitioner in Queensland. Go, Emma. By networking with Queensland government and TAFE Queensland to propose a statewide service like the one recently introduced into Victoria. You're talking about Jobs Victoria, and also propose a career development service in TAFE. That's a fantastic initiative. Emma, more power to you. And Daniel saying that great point. You never know where the opportunities come from. It's so important to connect with people, and I think that's the theme. It wasn't that this theme was not present pre-COVID, but I think the importance of it has suddenly accelerated. Now you find
Yes.
suddenly that connect with people more and more, because the organizations are also looking for different ways to find talent. They are not just looking at traditional way of finding talent.
Yeah.
I know one of my client was asked to play a video game as part of her application process. Then, and they said it's a pure video game, it's a simulated environment, and she had to play the video game, and in the background, it was all analyzed, her moves, why did she do that, and obviously there are shrinks sitting on the backside and must have designed it. So they analyzed it, right? And I think it's just a fascinating way to really look at different. I'm pretty sure that these employers are not going to go out and invite hundreds of applications. They would go to selected people and say, come and play this game with us and see whether you are a fit or not. So I think that the employers talent acquisition strategies and how they see talent is also dramatically changing. Shannon, in terms of any advice around recruitment agencies, and how do you kind of work with them, because they are also kind of very important player, and not every job seeker get along with them, right? Let's put that fact. They don't like to have a recruitment consultant talk to them, and they feel, oh god, that's a gatekeeper. I just can't get past them. It's like a wall. What are your kind of thoughts around how do one work with them effectively?
I haven't been kind to recruitment services in my book, so I was hoping that you weren't going to ask me about that. No. Well, I think the thing is that if you're going to be able to get jobs through recruitment services, you need to have university education, at least one degree, but preferably two. I think that you need to have a work history that's stable, and that you're looking for a job that's the same as what you used to have in that thing. So I think that's their ideal client, because it means that they don't have to go looking and delving through various resumes and things. It'll be very obvious to them what it is that you have to offer them, because they're not working for you. They're actually working for the business that they need the people for. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. But so some of my thoughts on this are that you need to know that every single interaction you have with them is an interview. Doesn't matter even if it's, did you get my resume? Because if you don't if you don't actually, one recruitment person that I spoke to said that if when somebody rings up and says, "Did you get my resume?" She said, "I use it as an opportunity to say to people, you know, why have you applying for this job, etc." And she said, if they don't give me an answer just like that's articulate and you know, off the cuff and right there with me, she said, I'm deleting their application as I'm speaking to them, and I don't tell them that. I thought, whoa. But anyway, but that was just me. But she was a very successful recruiter. I think the thing is that you need to be respectful every single time you talk to them, but you need to know that they're not working for you. So that if you're a bit uncertain about what you want to do or you want to change, you need to see a careers person, not a recruitment person. So you need to see the careers person first, so that they can then help you arrange your resume and present you in a way that's going to appeal to a recruiter. I don't think that it's that, you know, then the people who are recruitment people are not careers people. So
I think a lot of people make that mistake, don't they? They assume, like, you know, if you're a recruiter and you're senior level accountants, right, that's your area of the market. And they can tell you, like, the expertise in general, not everybody, is what is my sector of that particular market looking for, like what's in demand in that little sector, not the whole accounting profession, not how to get into accounting, not how to go out of accounting into something else or come back into it. They don't, the more successful ones, because they get inundated with applications, are really good at being really ruthless about who they're going to talk to.
Yes.
And you're as hot as the time that you're of interest to their client, and then otherwise you're not a priority. And I think people get really upset by that, but it is the reality, and it's even more heightened when you're really vulnerable looking for a job, because you're looking for those answers too. So yeah.
So that sort of really goes back to the whole thing about, you know, connecting with people. And I don't know whether I heard you right before, Nash, when you said that somebody said that they're not good at networking or something, but networking doesn't have to be, you know, while there's a set of skills involved in it, it's actually really about, you know, just being comfortable enough to ask people questions. You know, people go along to some event or something. It's a really great thing to know is to actually just ask other people questions, ask them about their job, their career, their business, that sort of thing. And because the person who's asking the questions is actually the one in control. So you know, and once you've talked to the person for a while, you don't even have to tell them anything about you, but they'll think you're wonderful because you're asking them about them. That's part of the thing about networking. But in terms of recruitment, I think it's really important that you're respectful, because they are extremely busy. And I think, though, that you need to know what their role is, so that you're not actually, trying to turn them into someone who can help you in terms of working out what you need to do next, you know.
Excellent. We got a comment from Desmore. I've learned that continuing to learn and grow can build our confidence. Find companies you love, make the call. You never know what you might stumble upon whilst speaking to someone. I think that really summarizes that you know, taking small action, that's fine. Doesn't matter if somebody puts the phone down. I remember one of my client, a new migrant, and I said, you know what, you're going to make phone calls to employer. And he freaked out. He said, what do you mean by you make calls to employers? I said, yeah, exactly. You're going to call to some of the employers that you want to work with. He said, nobody responds. I said, try it out. Okay. You've not seen, I don't have a crystal ball. I tried out. And I said, one of the things that you could do is you can, you know, talk to companies that you don't want to work with. Just trial it out. Who cares? They are not going to remember your name after 5 minutes. You think that they'll put you onto a blacklist and never pick up a call from Naish again. That won't happen. And he said, "Oh, can I do that?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead and do that." Right. So he did that a couple of calls just to get his nerves calmed down. And they knew that they're going to put the phone down on him. He said, just get the, calm down. And the 13th or 14th call he made, he practically landed the job on the phone. And then he was asked to go for a formal interview. Right now,
Right.
that's an example of that. You can try it out, practice it,
Yes.
with people. Right. It is okay. And I say that the water is safe. There are other people have swam in the water. They have not drowned. The water is safe, but you at the same time you can't learn swimming, by watching YouTube videos that I usually do. Um, you know, but yeah, Sharon, look, it's absolutely fascinating to catch up with. I know we are coming to a very close to that, and I'll put Sharon's the book link onto the chat message. We would strongly recommend you to go and buy the book from Sharon. Sharon, before we close, any parting wisdom?
Um, yes, there's a couple of things actually. I want people not to take it personally. For employers, recruiters, whoever, it's not a personal thing to them. Now, I know it's not that it's more personal for the job seeker because they're concerned, obviously, about getting a job, but really, you're just another number to other people. So it's not as if they're going, oh, well, they were a bit hopeless or whatever, and none of that sort of thing is going through their mind. Might be going through your mind, and it's really unjustified. So don't give yourself a hard time about it. Don't take it personally. If you don't get a job, you go, well, next, whatever, it's just, and the more that you do it, the more the practice, that thing that you were just talking about, it's really important. You just keep doing it. But as I say, if you're not actually getting any results at all from your resumes and letters, you need to change them. If you're not getting interviews, if you're not, then when you go for an interview, if you're not getting a job, there's something that needs to be changed. So it's about just persevering, because you will get it, and just stay as positive as you can. That's the other thing about it is, people are not going to give a job to somebody who's really down in the dumps and all those sorts of things. And so be as positive as you can. And that probably means being as relaxed as you can be too. And I do give some tips on those sorts of things about getting yourself into a relaxed sort of mode. And the other thing, sorry, I'm going on here, but I think the other thing is preparation. Really being really well prepared, knowing what the commonly asked questions are, having your answers already prepared, practice them with your family and friends. Preparation is a really key factor. That's a couple of P's, isn't it? Positive and preparation. I think that's probably, a good place to end. Thank you.
Sharon, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you talk today, because there's so many practical and actionable tips that you've given people. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll put the link to your book in the comments, but where can people find you if they want to go and buy a copy as well?
Well, it's available on Amazon. It's available at Book Depository. It's available on Dymocks as well. Online.
Fantastic.
My publisher has told me that they're about to put it into bookstores as well. So
oh, wow.
I just hold it up again.
Go for it as many times as you like. It's fantastic. And what's the next book?
Well, the next book, I'm hoping, I don't want someone to pinch the title, but what I want to make it is the best careers book for grown-ups.
Great. Or people who aspire to be.
Oh yes, that's right. I really do love working with adults. So I really find it really, because they've often got quite a bit of usable experience. I think that
yeah.
They've got a lot to offer, and they often don't realise it. So yes, that's and so I'm hopeful that that'll be to my publisher within the next month. So
fantastic.
Excellent. All right. So, we will be coming to you next week. Next week, we still have got an author coming to talk to us. Her name is Erin Devlin, and she has written a book called Get the Job You Really Want. And it's also a fascinating book. And that is coming. Now, I did not mention, but Sharon's book is shortlisted in the Australian Career Book of the Year Award, finalist. And Erin, she's coming next week. Her book is also in running for the coveted Australian Career Book of the Year award. So we will see you next week. If you're not following us on YouTube, shame on you. You should be following on, on YouTube. But follow our hashtag Career Care Package, and in couple of 2-3 weeks time, me and Caroline are launching our own set of card game that job seekers can play to have a bit of fun when you're looking for work. It's and we will be launching that in the second week of August. So do watch out the space for that, because that's going to be a really interesting and innovative thing that me and Caroline have worked during the COVID times, and it's coming to fruition now. So until we see you, everyone, please mask up if you're in Victoria, New South Wales. Otherwise, you can do whatever that you want to do. No problem with that. And get vaccinated. If you get a slot, go get vaccinated. Go get jabbed.
Exactly. Get us all out of
All
here.
right. All right. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.